And this is really not a lesson. My life was hacked. A lot of people wonder, what in the world does that mean? Your life was hacked. Well, a lot of people would say, well, your identification was taken. Well, that's a bad thing to happen, and I've had that happen before. But this was much worse. This was a much more severe situation for us in the ministry and our lives. And it was just amazing what God had taken us through in order for us to be able to see not only that we could trust him, but also to see how he magnificently moved and orchestrated things to fall into place just for us. And some of it he had pre-planned years ahead of time, just set aside, waiting for that particular day. Before I get into the disaster part of this, let me set it up from this standpoint of how things were going beginning back in 1995. 1995, the opportunity came from a prophecy I did for a pastor who had just lost his position, has lost his whole career as a pastor with a particular denomination, and he had come to Texas from Hawaii, and he had met up with a pastor friend of mine who had also been ostracized from that same denomination years prior. And so he was very distraught. He had a family, and they were pretty much destitute because they lost the house, everything, because everything belonged to the church. So this man called me up and asked me if I would meet them to have a word for this particular pastor. And so I agreed I would do that. And we met at a what was called a Black Eyed Pea restaurant. I don't even know if they're around anymore, but that was the name of the place, and it was kind of loud. But after it kind of settled down a little bit, then I took out my little tape recorder and found the word for the man, and it was basically, go back to Hawaii, and there will be one who will meet you, and you'll have a place to live, and you will find work. So, they were kind of glad to be able to go back to Hawaii, but it's a very expensive place to live, so you better have something lined up. And of course, he was just going strictly on the word, just what the word of the Lord was. So they took off, and it wasn't very long before I heard back. And he said, man, I'm here. It was a miracle. He said the pastor that took over the church there has a home in Hawaii. He said, I won't need the parsonage, and you're welcome to move into it. So they moved right back into the same place that they were basically kicked out of. And so because that pastor was also the overseer of all those churches in the Pacific Islands. So he had a pretty high enough position where he could do that. So as they're living there, then they thought, man, we got to do something because now we need work. We need work. Well, they wrote me and sent off for another prophecy. And they said that, and the prophecy basically said, when you receive this prophecy today will be the day your life will change. So he got the prophecy, and he had been destitute. Just he had very little because they didn't have their furniture and everything. They're sitting on the floor. They were just about to run out of money, not having anything to eat. They needed a job. He had gone on a TV program and thought he could get a ministry started that way. And of course, all he did was run up some debt. So he was really in a bad situation. So anyway, the prophecy told him, by the time you receive this prophecy, things will begin to change. So what happened, he said the day he got the prophecy, he was listening to it, and they had a little bit of hope, but they still, need to see some results. And it wasn't but an hour or so later, after they listened to the prophecy, that they had a knock at the door, and they opened the door, and the man said, hey, I'm from the TV station where you had your program. They thought, oh, well, we're sorry, we don't have any money, you thought they were coming to collect. But that wasn't the situation. And so as he began to try to get them to the place to where they can maybe calm down a little bit, he told them, he said, look, I want to make you an offer. We have a job position open for a salesman that could sell advertising for the TV station, and we'll give you your old program back, and it won't cost you anything. Well, he was elated, and he said, well, they said they'd start him on a base salary, give him plenty of time to build up a clientele so that he could be supported by the sales on commission. So as he got working there, then he called me and wanted to know, hey, can you come to Hawaii? He said, I've got some things set up for you. He said, I've got some churches lined up. I've got a TV program that I'll have. I want you to come on every day, and let's see what God does. And so I thought, okay, well, that sounds interesting. We didn't have the money to go to Hawaii, but they set it up for 3 weeks and 3 days to be in Hawaii. And now you think that's a great thing. Well, it is a great thing if you're going for vacation, but I was going to minister, and I didn't even get to get in the water. That's I guess you would say that isn't too much of a vacation, but I was blessed nonetheless. We ministered on TV every day. We ministered in churches all over the place. We had conferences where we had other ministers that had come. In fact, even the pastor that had introduced me to this gentleman who used to be a pastor, he introduced him to him. He was there, and he was ministering in churches. So the fellow got places lined up all over the islands for us to minister. So the last night that we were there, he set it up for us to minister at the Tini Theater, which is on the governor's location where the governor of the state of Hawaii lives, and that Tini Theater is on their premises of where the governor resides. So it was a pretty good sized auditorium. It was pretty well packed. And I told them before I was leaving, I said, look, whatever the offering is from this meeting tonight, I want y'all to keep it, just for the blessing of having us come and everything that's happened. We just want to reciprocate and bless you with that offering. So after everybody just about left, after administered, I had two people that kept sitting out in the office, out in the middle of the audience. They were just sitting there. Everybody else was left, so I thought, well, I better go see what these people are waiting on. And I went and talked to them a moment, and they said, well, we were just stunned. We're just stunned. We can't believe what just happened. The words that we got and the people we know that also got prophecies, they said, we're stunned. And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, well, tell me a little bit about yourselves. And they said, well, we've been into black magic and tarot card reading and all that. And I thought, oh, wow. I've had some conversions of people who were working for the Psychic Network and other places like that. Never anyone that was into black magic, though. And, tarot card readers, yeah, I've had conversions of those type of people, too. But they were really, really awestruck, and they want to know what they could do to help the ministry. And so I told them, I said, well, I might be coming back. If I do, I'll call you up. And they said, oh, please do, because we would love to be able to, have some time to spend with you, and we'll put you up and take care of your expenses and all that. And I thought, well, that'd be a good thing. So anyway, it's about the same time that I got back to the States, and we got things lined back up, got caught up with everything that happened back in Texas. Then I got an offer from Dr. Lester Summerall to come and be on have my own program on the TV network that he had, which was covering 8 states. It's out of New Orleans and out of Denver, Colorado, up in Michigan. There was a number of different places. So we had the studio that we would be using was the studio in. I just lost my programming. I don't know what happened to my program here. The video. So anyway, we're trying to figure out exactly, what is it that the Lord's having us do, and what's the position of this thing. I don't know what's happening to my programming here. This is kind of strange. So anyway, I was trying to talk to him about, what was happening in the area of what we do, and Dr. Summerall didn't really care that much. He just wanted to know. Let's pause just for a minute. Eric, if you're on Zoom, please get off, because it's messing up my whole programming here. So I would appreciate it if you're trying to work on it. So anyway, as I've talked to him about doing the programming, we got something set up and we were ready to get going, and everything was moving forward, and we were really excited about what was happening. And the thing about what we were doing was trying to make arrangements. I mean, you're going to have a studio set up in that part of the world. That's a long ways away, and so I didn't know exactly how we were going to do this. But as we continue to go forward in what we were doing, I thought, well, maybe we can make this work. So it did turn out that we wound up going many, many times. In fact, I had to be there to do 20 programs, pre-recorded programs. At the same time that we were doing the programming and teaching, we were also in a situation where we just, didn't have the ability to be able to do any programming back at Texas because everything was going to be processed right there and edited and everything. So, but we also had the 900 prophet, 900 prophet number going, and I was prophesying people live there as well. So as we continued to go through the process of having all of this done, it worked out that I wound up staying with this particular family many times. They didn't have any children, and they were about the same age as I, and we just got to be real friends. And then I had my wife come a few times, and we would even vacation with them. We got really close, and that was, I guess, probably the best part of it. We got really close to this couple, and they were very interested in being in the ministry. They went through the school of prophets. They went through the school of prophetic knowledge. They went through everything that we had, and then at some point in time, we realized that this thing's growing pretty fast, and we talked about setting up what we called Video Church, which was a online website where we would have it set up where churches, ministries we would set up their videos, we would upload their videos, we'd have their videos playing live from their web page, and their web page would also offer products and copies of the message and a lot of different types of distribution pieces that would work. So that way we could make it kind of a smorgasbord of ministries for each individual church or ministry. And that was going real well, but the thing is it's going to cost us $86,000 to have this website built and to have all the service for hosting of all these videos and all the transcribing these videos into different speed levels, which was, a pretty encumbering thing to do. But anyway, the motto said that they would help in that, and they would also want to, help with the finances of this thing. So they had come into some money for the man of the house had lost his brother, and his brother had listed him as a beneficiary of a life insurance policy, which was a large size policy. So he was, well to take care of it. So he wanted to make a big decision, and he wanted to not only help us in paying the expenses of it, but he wanted to move to Texas from Hawaii and be a part of that of the whole service. I mean, doing everything. And I thought, well, that would be something that would be interesting to do. I'm just not sure how we can, how this is going to work. But anyway, we wound up going into a place to where he started talking to me about the financial situation. How he wanted to buy stock in the ministry and all that. I said, well, that doesn't work that way. You can't purchase stock in the ministry that way. You can't. It's a nonprofit organization. You can't do that. So that kind of left everything up in there and didn't know exactly how we were going to handle that. But I said, look, we're a nonprofit group. He said, well, let me ask you this. How much revenue do you think comes through for the ministry through the internet? Because they helped also build a website. So they were very handy and very much involved in what was going on. And I said, well, probably about 70% of the revenue that we have come into the ministry comes through the website. And he was, oh, wow, that much. And I said, yeah. He said, well, that's great. So anyway, things seemed to work out. He said I said I had some contracts that he might want to look at as far as the contracts for the people who were going to build a website. And he thought, well, yeah, my wife would probably like to see those. She's worked in all kinds of real estate deals, and she probably would like to read contracts. I said, well, I'll ship them over to her. And then he got thinking, he said, no, that's okay. Don't send them to her. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. But anyway, went on, and they continued to send money as needed to take care of the expenses of having the website built, setting up all the hosting companies for the videos, because back at that time, it took a lot more space on a hard drive to store videos than it does today. Technology has gotten better, and you can put a lot more on a small part of space. But anyway, as we started moving forward in that direction, things got to where everything was looking really good, and they were getting excited. He wanted to move to Texas. I always wanted to move to Texas. Every time I'd go to Hawaii, I'd always rent a Harley, and he had a motorcycle, and so we would ride motorcycles, and in between the times of ministry and all, and it got to the place to where we really enjoyed having what am I trying to say? Well, having our space to be able to work through the process of ministering, playing, having fun. I finally got to make it to the beach a couple of times, but he was wanting to move to Texas because he wanted to be able to ride his motorcycle in a large area, long highways, and be part of the group. Well, that was not really working too good because that was really a situation where it made it difficult to be able to understand why he would want to move from Hawaii. Most people wondered why you want to do that, but they did, and they just moved a few doors down from where we lived in Northwestern Hills in Texas, which is part of Fort Worth. And that was really kind of a strange situation for us because, it made it easier working with them. I mean, we wound up moving all of our equipment down to their house, which was, we had editing bays, we had cameras, we had all kinds of stuff to work with. And so we had all that stuff at their house, and they worked on it. And, we were just busy all the time. And things were going real well until they started acting a little strange. They started getting angry and mad, and I was wondering, what is going on? I mean, this fellow was a pretty good sized fellow. I mean, he's a Hawaiian, Polynesian. You know who The Rock is. Well, he's Samoan. Well, they're not the same, but they're all pretty good sized people, very strong people. And he would get mad, just very agitated. And I thought, what is wrong? What is happening here? I don't know why these people are getting so upset. And so anyway, things got so bad, I had to call a board meeting, and I had all the trustees come in, and we met at a local hotel. At a restaurant, and we'd reserved a spot where we could be away from everybody so we could have our meeting, and that turned into a real bizarre meeting because what came out of that was they were upset because they felt like they should get all the revenue that comes through the website. And I thought, why would y'all get all the revenue that comes through the website? And they said, because we built the website. And I thought, well, yeah, you built the website, but I'm the one doing all the prophesying. I'm the one doing all the ministry. Y'all are just working in the background. People don't even know who you are. Why would you get that? And say, well, because we built the website. Well, that, the board was just kind of like, is that crazy? But one of the board members, which was one of my sister-in-laws, and she was, you probably would, she wasn't highly educated, but everybody loved her. I mean, she was just dear heart and just common sense, just the only thing that she had, but she had a lot of it. And so she said, well, let me get this straight. And she's talking to the couple that are giving us so much trouble here. So let me get this straight. Now, you think you have the rights to all the revenue that come in from the website because you built the website. They said, yeah, that's right. She says, well, let me ask you this. If Kenneth Copeland is on TV a lot and he's always raising money from the TV program for partners, does that mean that the people that run the cameras should get all the money because he doesn't know how to run those cameras for the TV? That makes about as much sense to me as what you're trying to tell us. That would be what they would have the rights to, just like you're saying you have the rights to it. Well, they got disgruntled about that. They didn't think that was right. Come to find out, what the real problem was is the husband did not want the wife to know it, but he told her basically a lie. He told her that he had made arrangements with me to receive 70% of all the revenue that came from the ministry. So what was happening, she was getting upset with him because they weren't getting money coming into them. We used all that money to run the ministry and pay for all the expenses. But she felt like they should get it, and he was saying, well, they should, but he's trying to cover himself, and is not doing a very good job. So it turned into just a showdown. The next thing I know, I get up one day, and I go to check the website. All of our emails were connected there. All of our accounts were connected there. All the processing for everything was done through both the websites, the Prophetic Ministries and also the Video Church. And so I realized I couldn't get in. I'd been blocked out. So I tried to call down there to find out, okay, well, what's going on? Why can't I get on? And nobody was answering at the other end down the block, So I called up and I asked the hosting company that had hosted the websites And they said, well, the website, the password's been changed. And we don't know what it's been changed to, but it's been changed. And I thought, well, that's crazy. Why would that happen? Then I realized, they just hacked us. The people that had been helping us for 8 years, been friends for 8 years, had just hacked us, had just shut us down. We couldn't get our emails. We couldn't have any revenue, couldn't get our accounts, couldn't do anything. And in fact, people, sending in any kind of request for anything, we wouldn't be able to get it because it all goes to them. But they couldn't do any prophesying. They didn't have any way of ministering to people. They didn't know how that was not their thing. So every day for weeks, like 3 weeks, my wife and I would go to the mall, which was a mall that was just about dead, but it was nice, air conditioning, had, fountains all up and down, and it was a good sized mall. And we'd go walk, and we'd walk, and we'd walk, and we'd be praying the whole time we're walking, We're not praying out loud and being, just hysterical about it or acting, uncommon, but we were praying, and we had kind of an agreement that we wouldn't say anything unless we heard something from the Lord. But it was every day that we went and prayed, we'd go out and get in the car, and then all of a sudden we'd start realizing this is what the Lord was saying to me, and my wife would say, well, this is what he was saying to me about that certain thing, and it was the continuation of what he was talking to me about. So it was kind of like getting confirmation right on the spot of what was going to happen. That's what was really unique about this. God was telling us what they were going to do next. And I thought, this is amazing. So we always knew what we needed to do, how we needed to prepare for that day, because we had gone and prayed that morning. And as we did, God told us what to expect, and sure enough, it would happen just like God said it would happen. They'd come down the block, and they'd start throwing. One day, came in through the back door and sat down at the kitchen table and started beating the table with his fist, all mad and everything. I thought, why are you mad at us? You're the one that's blocked us. And I thought, this is just crazy. It's just almost a fear tactic, kind of a bullying type thing. They wanted to take over the ministry. And that's not the first time that's happened. I mean, I've had it happen many times, but, it just never works because God always is a protector of those who he's put into place and called them to do a certain job. And it's our job, not anybody else's. Nobody can take it away. But yet we've had a few try over the years, and this wasn't any different. But this was probably the most radical thing that was happening. This was in 2003. And so we'd been friends since 1995, 2003. They're living down the street, and we're trying to pray and asking God, bless them, Lord, bless them in a way that will put them in a bigger place. They want to live out in the country, Lord. Help them be able to move out in the country. Lord, we just need to have the peace because we're tired of this pressure, this undue pressure and chaos, and we need our website back. Well, one day the Lord started bringing my remembrance back to an email I had received from a company, and I thought, I'm going to call that company up because they were a hosting company. They host websites. I'm going to see if I can't get them to help me get our websites back. So I called that number that was on that email, and the fellow answered the phone, and I said, I received an email from you and about you host websites. And he said, oh, yeah. And I said, well, I need some help. He said, what do you need help with, Kent? I said, you know who I am? He says, yeah, I know you. I said, how do you know me? He said, well, in 1995, my wife and I had gotten married, and we went to Hawaii on our honeymoon, and we were at church one Sunday, the Sunday on that week of our honeymoon, and he said, you prophesied over us while we were in that church over in the island of Maui. And I thought, oh, really? Okay, what was the prophecy? And he said, well, you said that there would come the day that I would work for the ministry and help the ministry. And I said, well, okay, maybe that's today. And he says, well, that's what I think it is. I'm here to help you. What do we need to do? I said, well, here's my dilemma. This is really a heavy-duty problem here. I said, they hacked us out of our website. They've holding our website, and these are people who just built the website, but I don't have a way of getting back into it. I don't have any control of it anymore. He said, I tell you what, don't worry about it. He said, I'll get the password for you. And I thought, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get that password? And so, I wasn't going to question him too much because I was going to let the man do what he said he could do. He said, tomorrow when you get up, all your website will be moved over to my servers, and they won't have access to them anymore. I thought, okay, well, that sounds good. Let's see how that's going to work. So anyway, the next day, sure enough, I pulled it up. There it was. He said, but he emailed me and he said, look, here's what you need to do. I want you to go to this location, and it was kind of a private place that he had a password to get into and all that. So I went in there, and he said, here's the password you're going to use to get into the website. And I thought, okay. And I said, well, let me ask you this: how did you get that password? He said, well, I called the hosting company, and it was late at night, and the fellow that was working that night, he said, I can't give you the passwords for any of these websites. And he said, yeah, I know. He said, but from one colleague to another, he said, maybe you could just give me a hint. And so he gave him a little hint, and he said, about the second time I tried thought what that might mean, his little hint, it worked. And he said I was able to get in there, and I just set them up and started having them all bleed over through the night, and they loaded up into our servers here in Canada. He was actually in Canada. And so I thought, this is just bizarre, God, the way you're doing all this. It's just amazing what you're doing. And, then after we had the website taken, they're trying to figure out down the street. They're wondering, what happened? How did they do that? How did they get the password? Well, now we still got all of our equipment still down there, all our servers, all our computers, all of our editing-based systems. So I have to learn what I sent them to learn how to do to get these videos ready to go up on the internet. I paid for them to go to a school in Canada to learn. For 2 weeks they went up there to do that. And I'm going to have to learn this just in about an hour and a half. And I had to pay $800 to be taught in an hour and a half what they learned in 2 weeks. Now, you're thinking, man, that's going to be a lot on the brain. And I thought, Lord, I'm going to need some help here because I don't know if I can retain that much information. And so, sure enough, I mean, it was amazing. I just really was surprised that God gave me that ability to retain 2 weeks worth of information being taught in their school, at their company school, to where I could learn it in an hour and a half. And the guy was just rattling it off fast as he could, and I was just going through the process, and it stuck. Usually you'll forget a lot of things, but I didn't forget one thing. And it was like I'd been doing it forever. And so, but I still had a problem. We still got to get the equipment. Well, then I got a call from another partner of ours, and he lived in New Zealand. And now he was a man who was just starting to learn about the prophetic. He really didn't know too much about it. And we had met him and his family a couple of times on our visits in Hawaii. And in fact, they even came to Texas a couple of times to visit. Anyway, he said, I don't know what this means. He said, but I just had a vision, and God told me to call you and tell you this vision, and you'd know what it means. I said, well, okay, what's the vision, Gray? He said, I saw these look like cowboys coming with yellow scars around their neck. Yellow scars, okay. He said, what are the yellow scars? And I got thinking about it a minute. I thought, well, now Boy Scouts have yellow scarves. And I thought, but wait a minute, the cavalry does too, cowboys. He's talking about they look like cowboys, so I thought it had to be the cavalry. Sure enough, the cavalry had real yellow scarves that they wore in their dress uniform. So I said, okay, well, it must be the cavalry coming. I hadn't any more said that, and all of a sudden somebody drove up the driveway, and I looked out the window, and I said, well, Gray, I guess I better go. It looks like the cavalry just arrived, and I was just joking about it. But sure enough, it was two of our friends and a brother-in-law that all pulled up at the same time. I said, what are y'all doing? They said, well, we felt led to come here. I said, did y'all call each other? They said, no, we didn't call each other. We just all came up at the same time. And I said, well, okay, well, here's what just happened. I got a call from Gray, Gray Preble, who lives in New Zealand. I said, and he said he had a vision. Here was the vision. I guess y'all are it. Y'all are the cavalry. They said, well, what do we need to do? I said, well, we got all our stuff down there. I don't really want to go down there because they just get livid if they see me. I said, but could y'all help me out? Sure. One of them had a van. The other had two pickups, one in each pickup. So I said, well, yeah, we'll go get you. Just stay right here. We'll be right back. So they drove down there, knocked on the door, walked in the house, and hauled out all the desks, all the computers and everything, loaded them all up and brought them down. And we were just getting ready to unload everything when we saw that the Hawaiian fella come riding down on his motorcycle. And I thought, uh-oh, here it goes. We're going to be scrapping going on, and I'm not fighting. I'm not fighting. I said, everybody just keep it down. Don't just stay cool. Well, he walked right up to me and handed me a remote control to one of the TVs or monitors, and he said, "Here, you're going to need this." And he turned around, got on his motorcycle, and rode back. I thought, well, that was nice of him. I guess that's going to help me. I don't know why he went to the effort to do that, but here we are. So anyway, we got set back up. Everybody brought everything in for me and set it all up. And we were ready to go the very next day, and we just kept on plugging along like nothing ever happened. But they still lived down the street. So my wife and I, we kept praying, Lord, bless them into that place in the country. Lord, we bless them in a place where they'd really be happy. Lord, we don't want anything bad happening to them. Well, lo and behold, what happened before too long was they didn't get moved, but we did. Lord blessed us with a larger home in the country in Gainesville, and that's where we live today. So we know God gave us his house. We know God made a way for this house to be in our place of residence, and that's where we're still at today. That was back in 2004 when we moved here to Gainesville, and that even ties a lot of other stories together. Now remember, this whole sequence for the next another week at least is in between 2003 and 2004. In between those two years, actually 2005, they even continued on in 2005. So those 3 years, God kept doing things over and over miraculously that set a course and a path that was able to make it such that we could see in advance what was going to happen, that we knew what to do, and that we learned at that particular point through this particular time of being hacked, we learned the key. Here was a major key that you need to remember. Anytime that you're under stress, you're under a battle, you feel the odds are all against you. You feel like everything's been jerked out from under you. You feel like that, it's just hopeless. You know how your mind will do? It'll just start running rampant and adding all kinds of horrible stuff, that could be happening. Just really feeding you with all kinds of garbage that really, it doesn't exist. But here's the key. If you can shut that part of your emotions down, just shut it down. Don't even think about it. Don't entertain it. Just shut it down and wait upon God. Then he will tell you what to do. But as long as your emotions are going, it's so much noise going on up in your noggin, you don't hear anything. You won't hear God. All you'll hear is that devil sending you lies and trying to throw you a curveball to put you on a path of destruction. Because he does come to steal, kill, and destroy. And you have to maintain that posture of not letting your anger get involved, not letting your senses go numb and become depressed. You can't do that. You've got to be just as normal as if nothing's happening any different today than it has any other day. Now that sounds like a real challenge, but I guarantee you, if you start asking God to help you with that, he will help you. He will give you the ability to be able to overcome. It's grace is what he gives you. He gives you the grace to go through the storm, and you feel not the storm even though it's blowing all around you and stuff's flying in there. You don't get touched by any of it because you're walking in that special place. Remember what it says in 1 John 5:18. The very last part of that, verse 18. It says, he that's in the will of the Lord, the devil can't touch him. The evil one can't touch you. If you're in the will of God, the evil one can't touch you. And you've got to realize that the only way to be in the will of God is to be hearing God. The only way that you're going to have faith is to hear God. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. The only thing you're going to know to do is whatever God says to do. And that's what works. Nothing else will. We live by the word of God. We can have our bread, and we can have our cake, and we can eat and drink. But I guarantee you, the only way to have the abundant life is by the word. When you receive that spoken word from God, and he shows you what to do, shows you what to expect, and prepares you in advance of what to do in those situations, you will always have the upper hand. You will always come out on top, and you will win this situation. And that's what the Lord has done in these 3 years. We learn more about watching the grace, the magnificent journey that God can take you through, and knowing how to begin to hear his voice, to be led by him, to see way far in advance, to know what's around the corner of tomorrow, to have all those things happen. All happens this way. To learn how to pray, how to hear, and how to obey. It's as simple as that, people. That's what it's all about right there. Those 3 words are the key to everything: to pray, hear, and obey. And praying doesn't mean telling God what to do. That you don't do that. You don't pray to tell God what's going on. Don't you know He knows? He says, I know your needs before you ask. What you pray about is, Lord, what do we do? What do we expect? Lord, help us to see. Lord, don't let us be blinded by our own emotions. Lord, give us sight to see. Don't let us be tempted to fall into the trap of the enemy. Lord, give us wisdom. I mean, Lord, you're just asking the Lord to help you know what to do. And when you start doing that, He'll tell you. But if you don't ask Him what to do, you pray not, you receive not because you pray not. You don't ask. You ask not because you don't ask. You don't receive because you don't ask. I mean, I'll get it right here in a minute. You don't receive if you don't ask. Well, what do you receive? Not what you tell Him, or what He does. What He already knows is what you need. What you need to do is, how do I get it? How do I get there, Lord? How do I get out of this mess? Not tell Him about the mess, and don't tell Him how great He is and all that stuff. He loves to hear that. I mean, it does help to always praise God, but there comes a time where you got to get down to the real principle of it. Lord, show me your magnificence. Show me your wisdom. Lord, help me here. I am foolish. Lord, help me. I don't know what to do. I'm helpless. Lord, I need your hand. I need your advice. I need your counsel. And it will come if you are sincere about doing it His way. You got to trust Him, but that's not hard to do when you have nothing else to trust but Him. But you got to know how to meet Him. And my whole point is you got to learn how to pray to God. Then when you hear Him, you got to know what you do with when you hear it. When you hear it, you got to confirm it. When you hear it, you got to sometimes ask Him, Lord, will you confirm that? Because I don't know. I'm so messed up right now. I need to hear. I need to know if that is you. Can you give me a sign? And he'll do it. He'll do it. The devil won't, but God will. And then it comes to the obedient part. That's sometimes where we get messed up. Because we think, well, we'll do it halfway. No, you don't do it halfway. You do it every bit of what God said. Every dot and tittle, you do it all. You don't cheapen it. You do it exactly the way He said, and it'll always work. Now, I've told you all this that you might gain something from it. This story is true, and this story is a lot deeper than what I even took you through. I had a lot of technical issues today, so it really kind of made it challenging trying to tell the story and stay on cue. I really was prepared today, but not for the technical problems, for the 4th week in a row. I'm sorry to say, but we will get that fixed, and we will make it work for you so that we won't have this anymore. Okay. I want to bless you in the name of the Lord. I want to send you out with hope. Know that April 14th will be the day of everything's going to turn around on this corona thing, and we're going to see the blessings of the Lord come and overtake this situation and begin to bring it to a halt. And we'll see our economy come back. By the time the end of the year is, we'll be almost as good or not better than we were before. No, the jobs will still be there. The work will still be there. Don't delay. We're in a time right now where we all feel we've been hacked by that Chinese virus. Well, just know we have a God that can reverse all that, and He will. Each and every one of us will receive our portion if we only pray, hear, and obey. God bless you all. Continue to support us if you can, and I really encourage you to become a campus partner. If you become a campus partner, you'll receive a lot of benefits. They'll be going up to here pretty quick on the website, all the benefits that are coming with being a campus partner, and we'll let you know. So be it. God bless you all, and to all, a good day.